Yes, the Mount Rushmore. Reverse Thanos. We're gonna go into snapping
I don't know
these.
how I came up with this
I don't
name.
either. I was like, that's awesome.
The
So
reverse.
I actually have a few honorable mentions, not a lot, but a few, because there's some guys that I would just love to see
I
in
have
today's
three.
time. But yeah, me too. I think I have three. But so we will do what we usually do, and we'll start with. Do you want to start with Lincoln and go back?
I don't care. It doesn't matter.
You tell me, man.
Sure,
You tell me, man.
sure, sure. We can do that.
All right. So we'll start with Lincoln, who is, I mean, I I think he should be number one. But obviously George Washington was the number one president, first president of all time. So we give him the shine as being the number one. Of course, he's your
Sure.
favorite. He's your favorite, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So you have all sorts of like artwork and stuff about
Ooh.
him. Yeah. So
I know he
we,
kind of got canceled this year, but you know, uh,
all right. So
a lot of people got canceled this year.
all right. So yeah. So all right. So let's get into this. So do you want to start? I'll start off. All right, as my Lincoln. The guy who I would like to see, and I tried to cover a lot of the main sports here. I did, of course, go a little. I went a little baseball heavy. I'm a baseball guy, so I went a little baseball heavy. But I did try to cover a lot of the major sports. But so the first guy that I have here is one of the greatest running backs of all time. Died way too early, and I think that this guy in any league, anytime, any era would dominate. And I would love to see him in this league because I think he is like the 2.0 version of like an Adrian Peterson. And actually he has more moves than him, is Walter Payton. I would love to see
Sweetness.
that guy in
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
today's world. And there's so many guys that are out there. I mean,
Oh,
defensive and there's just so many guys that are so beast mode. Like that
that's a
you
good
would love
point.
to just see play again, like even like Reggie White, like those guys like that are just died way too early and were just such beasts in their prime that you would love to see. And that's a guy right there, Walter Payton. I would love to see him be in his prime
I hate to say this.
now.
A lot of mine are sadly wrapped in tragedy. But that's kind of the point of this. At least it was for me, was to try to bring back guys who left us too soon
Okay.
and whose careers were already really incredible, but it would have been great if we could have seen some more.
Yeah, I have my caveats here. I got one that I wanted
So
to see how he would do the athleticism, and then I'll give my explanation.
so my Lincoln and he died at 38 in a plane crash, and his name was Roberto Clemente. And he was one of the greatest baseball players and maybe one of the greatest human beings to ever live. I mean, the actual events surrounding his death, it was on New Year's Eve in 1972. He was actually he died in a plane crash, and he was delivering supplies to help earthquake victims in Nicaragua. Like, those are the circumstances of his death. I mean, the guy died basically in a heroic act. He was helping people. But just talking about the player himself, Hall of Famer, a five-tool athlete, just a special player who, granted, he was 38, so he had played, as far as his playing career, he had reached all the milestones that he kind of needed to reach in order to become a Hall of Famer. But way too good of a human being to lose
Yes.
at such a young age. And here's a little hint: he will not be the first person on my list to have died in a plane crash.
All right, I know who the other guy's going to be, and I like it. All right, so let's go on to now. We'll go on to Roosevelt. My Roosevelt here, and this is the guy that I would like to see due to athleticism. He was a beast in his era, and the league was a lot smaller. The league was a lot less athletic. I think that I feel like in today's league, he might because I don't know if he had the will. Like I mentioned before earlier in the show, how Michael Jordan, I think you dump him into any era. I think,
Yes.
Walter Payton, you dump him into any era, they're dominant because their will to succeed, their will to fight, their will to get better, their will to dominate. Whereas I feel like Wilt Chamberlain, who was a beast, I feel like he might have only been a beast because he was taller, faster, longer, stronger. Like, not stronger, because he was very slender, but he was strong. And I feel like against today's competition, I feel like he would be, dare I say, fringe all-star. And that's because
Really?
I feel there are so many people that are like him in today's game. How many 7-foot big guys do you know can handle the rock like a point guard? He couldn't do that. And I don't know if he would have the will to do that, to get better at that. Because, for how good he was, you had players dominate him in the playoffs. You had players dominate him in the regular season because they were just better at defense than he was at offense. So it's a very interesting thing to see. And I would like to see it just to see how someone like him would do in today's league.
Okay. All right.
Got some screaming going on. They're excited for the show. Either that, they're like, "What the heck is that? Wilt Chamberlain? Of course he would dominate." Is that what's going on up there?
Yeah. I have no idea what the hell is going on up there. Anyways, okay. So I guess my Roosevelt. Unfortunately, I'm sticking to the plane crash theme here, and this for me is one of those guys who I have always wanted to see play, wished I could have seen play, admired from, even though I never saw him because he died when I was 2 years old. And if you're a Yankee fan, you will understand this, but he was the captain, our captain, Thurman Munson. And he's the guy. It's so weird because every time I think of Thurman Munson, I always think like if I had been a ball player, if I had actually had that kind of talent, could have made it to the big leagues, this is the guy I would have wanted to emulate myself after, in not just in terms of the production, but just the man himself and the way he carried himself, the leader that he was, the way that he fucking hated the Red Sox. Shit, he didn't even get along with his own teammates. him and Reggie, notoriously butted heads, but they made it work because they did it for the better of the team. That 77, 78 Yankees teams, they were proof that you didn't really need to get along to go along. And so, again, he died in his own plane. He was flying his own plane. He had a Cessna, that he was flying in August of 79. He was, flying airplanes and he had purchased his own, and, he was on his way home, like on an off day, because that's what he would do. He would fly his plane home on off days to be with his family because he was such a great family man. And the plane crashed August 2nd, 1979, actually, which is the day before my birthday, August 3rd. And so I would have just been almost 2 years old when he passed away. That one, that's just a guy that I would love to be able to see. I don't know how the way he handled himself, how well that would play in today's modern sports, because he's such a throwback.
Yeah. I think he would still. You still have some warriors out there, like Bryce Harper. He's a warrior. He fights. There's people that are out there. There's not as many.
Yeah, but Bryce Harper he's a throwback in terms of his style of play, but he's new age in terms of his, the social media, the look, the social media presence.
Yeah, but catchers are different.
I know catchers are built different, as the kids say, and I,
as the kids,
I just have always loved and admired Thurman Munson just a great. Wasn't just a great player, just a great man. And again, you're going to sense a little. I mean, that's a little bit of a theme here with my first two guys between Clemente and Thurman Munson.
All right. So now we'll move on to Jefferson. My Jefferson here is Mickey Mantle, who we will also do.
The state of the Yankees.
And I say Mickey Mantle for a couple of reasons. One, I think that he was just an athletic beast. He had power, he had speed, and in today's game, he could be able to utilize both those things. Unfortunately, his shenanigans outside the locker, outside of the off the ball field, would have been much more. There would have been a bigger light shining on him. And I don't know, the Yankees nowadays would probably have done a better job of reining him in because back then they just didn't care. They were like, oh, that's just what they do. That's what baseball players do. They just go out and they sleep with people and they, drink and, do drugs and all, just do whatever they do. But as long as they show up for the game and play well, we're okay with it. And he just beat up his body tremendously. And I would like to see him in today's game because I feel like with a little bit tighter reins, I feel like he could have had a longer career and he could have been one of those, I don't know. I mean, who knows how many bases he could have stole? Who knows how many all-stars he would have, how many MVPs, how many, all of it. He was just an absolute total package player. So I would have loved to seen him, put on the pinstripes in today's game.
Yep. Okay. So mine is Kobe.
Kobe.
And it's weird for me to say this because I never loved him as a player. Didn't even necessarily love him as a human being. His death impacted me greatly because he also died alongside his 14-year-old daughter, of which I also have. And the other thing I keep thinking is, well, this would be a 2-for-1 deal too, because if Thanos could snap him back into existence, that would mean she would probably be back with us too. And so, along with 5 or 6 other people who also died in that helicopter crash. And I'm sorry that I brought the morbidity to this thing, but you want to talk about a guy who, while his playing career was done and was arguably, well, I wouldn't say arguably, he's top 5 all-time player, probably at worst a top 10.
Oh, he's top 10.
And he had the only guy I can think of since Jordan who had that Jordan-esque kind of will to win, who emulated his game after Jordan, who in a lot of ways wanted to be him, and in a lot of ways succeeded in that.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So he was a winner. The whole
he was
Mamba
a carbon copy
thing. And but I'm also upset because I think Kobe had a lot more to give to the world and to society in general had he lived. He really looked like he had the scandal when he was a player.
Seems like he corrected himself. Seems like he was starting to be turned it around, being a very good human being. And he's like, he's just starting on his second chapter of his life, and
and that's where I feel like we really got robbed, So he'd be my Jefferson. Again, you're sensing a theme here. Guys who were just taken way too early, who were either in their late 30s, early 40s. So
yeah. All right. So we'll go on to my George Washington.
Who's your GW?
My GW is also in baseball, and he's the African American version of Mickey Mantle, and that is Willie Mays.
Willie Mays is alive.
Is he? I thought he died.
No.
Didn't he die recently?
No.
He didn't die during the whole COVID year?
No.
Really? Shut up.
As soon
really?
as you said the African American version,
no.
I was like,
I thought he died.
That would be Willie Mays.
Holy shit, he didn't. 89.
He's alive. Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, he's not dead.
I hate 2020. Well, I'm glad that he's still alive though.
That's hilarious.
That's too bad.
Should we just move on to?
Well, I can go with my my other guy.
Okay.
Man, that's sad.
That's great. You just killed a guy who's still alive.
I know. I Thanos'd him.
You just snapped him out of existence, and he's still very much with us.
Oh, that's too bad.
Because as soon as you said the African American version of Mickey Mantle, I was like, "That's Willie Mays."
I can't believe that. I could have sworn. Oh my Lord, I didn't even look it up because that's how sure I was.
That was great. Wow.
Yeah, that's how sure I was.
Wow. Okay.
Because I was like, oh man, I can't. Like, I remember when Willie Mays died.
That was awesome. Okay. All right.
So I will move on, and I won't be baseball heavy now. I'll go into boxing. Muhammad Ali. I would love to see him nowadays, just because I think the sport
that's a great Washington, by the way. That's a good substitution.
Yeah, the sport has really gone downhill. I think I do like what's going on with Tyson and his old man stuff. Now he's going to try and fight Holyfield again.
Right, but what does that tell you about the state of boxing? That you're like,
right.
Okay, I love the whole Tyson thing.
Yeah, because there's no polarizing characters. There's nothing like going on. And Muhammad Ali was the ultimate polarizing character. So I would have to put him in there. And like the weird thing about my whole Mount Rushmore is like there were certain areas that I'm like, this guy could go here, but since he can't, I'm not going to put him in. Like, and that happens to be with Muhammad Ali. Like, it was either, the alive Willie Mays or the dead Muhammad Ali. So those are the two guys that I was going to choose from there. And I kind of have like, that's the honorable mention for those groups. So, all right. So that's my George Washington is Muhammad Ali. He's the ultimate polarizing character. He could talk the talk, walk the walk, and complete and utter beast mode. Like, just as far as his skill, his character.
Yep. So mine would be, if I could do it in like a Bob Shepard voice, I guess it would be, now batting for the Yankees, the center fielder, number 7, Mickey Mantle. He would easily be. My Washington is your Jefferson. Mickey Mantle was, I believe, he could have been the greatest baseball player to ever live. We talked about 5-tool players earlier with guys like Clemente. Mickey Mantle was all that, and he was a switch hitter. I can't even imagine the kind of money that guy would make in today's game with his skill set, the speed, the arm, the power, the range. He was everything. The guy won 7 championships. Mm-hmm. I shudder to think how many more maybe the Yankees could have won had he not been drunk most of the time.
Seriously.
So this is the argument I always make. If you wanted to say Mickey Mantle was the greatest ever, here's the argument I would make. He probably played a good portion of his games drunk and or hungover. And look how great he was. Mm-hmm. Look at the numbers he put up. Now, I don't know. Maybe he wouldn't have been as good if he didn't feel that way, but I can't imagine that would be the case. I can only think, I just think to myself, holy shit, what could his numbers have been if he had, 1, not been doing that to his body, and 2, he had not been physically hurt. He was always hurt. Too. Yeah. But the numbers that the guy put up, even with all the ailments, even with his off the field issues, what could he have been? And yes, I would like to believe, maybe the Yankees could have reined him in, stopped the partying, stopped the drinking. Yeah. That was a very different era too in the 50s and the 60s there, when you had guys like him and Whitey who were partying all the time. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, but still, dude, even what an unbelievable career. He's my Washington. I don't want to say it wasn't close, but it kind of wasn't. Right. For me, he's the guy. Mickey Mantle is my. I always say I have favorite old time players in addition to my current guys, and Mickey Mantle and Sandy Koufax are my two. They're my 2 top baseball guys. Yeah. And thankfully, before you even go there, Koufax is still with us. Okay? Yes, I know. All right. So, because otherwise he'd have been on this list too for me. Yeah. But that was before Tua Tagovailoa, Sandy Koufax was the left arm of God. So, anyways, my honorable mentions very quickly. Pat Tillman. Ooh. American hero. Yeah. Derek Thomas, great linebacker. Great linebacker. Steve Air McNair. That was a tragedy. Shot and killed, I think, at 36, murdered by his girlfriend, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably also include Ali in there. And you know what? Strangely enough, even though I couldn't care less about race car driving, Dale Earnhardt. That was
Yeah.
That was tough.
That was a tough one. I mean, that was tough for everybody just because everybody knew who he was.
Yeah, right. He's like the guy that
he's the crossover artist. Yeah.
Racing. Yeah, he was. He was the transcend. Like, you know, like if you look at guys like The Rock or Hulk Hogan in wrestling, who sort of transcend.
I was just gonna say Hulk Hogan. Yeah.
Steve Austin.
Yeah.
He's that guy. He's the Babe Ruth.
Like if you say to a normal person, like, who's Scott Hall? They're like, But if you say to a normal, like, who's Tiger Woods? Boom, you know who it is. Who's Muhammad Ali? Boom, you know who it is. Yeah. You know, who's Babe Ruth? You know who it is. Like, everybody knows. Like, Michael Jordan.
Right.
All these.
And I don't know. Like, just as an example, like, I don't know anything about racing. I know Dale Earnhardt and I know 7 Winston Cup championships.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
Before they were whatever they are now, NASCAR championship. Yeah. They were Winston Cups. Before cigarette smoking got canceled.
All right. So my honorable mentions were Walter Johnson. I would love to see him and his style in today's game. I think he would have done well. Obviously, you know, Babe Ruth is in there. That's a guy that, you know, I feel like can't transcend and could like cross to any era really. I don't know if he'd be quite as dominant. Definitely not as a pitcher, but probably as a hitter, he probably still would be pretty darn good. Yeah. And another one that you'd have to rein him in a bit, which might make him worse. Who knows? And then for me, a guy that there's some new news that just popped in, by the way. I posted it on there about Deshaun Watson.
What now? How many is it up to now?
16.
Okay, so it went up a couple.
Yeah, so there's 16 lawsuits against him as a what they call him, a serial predator. So anyway, the another guy who I feel like he's not. I mean, he was at the time, but I don't know how many people know of him now, and that's Bobby Jones. PGA great. And he was, you know, he's a guy that, you know, also had some issues that kind of derailed his career towards the end of his life, but like still incredible player. I would, you know, perfect swing. And it's a swing that still today people just like marvel at. So
if I would also like to do sort of a variation on this Mount Rushmore in the future where we talk about guys who are still alive, but we would love to see playing in the modern era.
Like Willie Mays.
Yeah. Sure.
You know what's going to happen? He's going to pass away before we do that. And then I'm not going to be able to use him.
And then it's going to be stuck in limbo.
Son of a gun.
Yeah.
Well, at least he was kind of mentioned.
We have to move on because we only have a few minutes
left.
Yep.
That Deshaun Watson, I posted it on the screen. It said New York Times reporting that the warrant has been signed for Deshaun Watson. And additionally, Alan Dershowitz has been hired by Rusty Hardin to Watson's defense team. Stuff's not looking good for him. So,
yeah, you know, if you got to bring in Dershowitz, it's real.
Yeah. It's not. It's not looking good for him.
It's not what you want.
No. As the great Joe Girardi says.
As the great Joe Girardi.
Ronnie posts, I was wondering if you guys were going to mention Dale. I don't care at all about racing, but I think every sports fan felt that one. Yeah.
Yes.
We totally agree.
I did too. I actually remember crying over that. And I was like,
I didn't, but it, like, you know, you were kind of like, holy cow. Like just the whole thing that happened. It was just
the way it happened too, like because, well, first of all, like he slammed into the wall, but the idea that what a lot of people thought he was doing in that race, if I remember correctly, was he was trying to clear a pathway for his son.
Yeah.
Like he was trying to help his son.
Yeah. That's
imagine, like that's the other emotion. That's the other part of it too.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we talk about Kobe dying in
and you have Junior having to deal with that.
His daughter. Like Dale Earnhardt Jr. shared the same track that his father passed away.
Which is awesome, but at the same time, like if that was the actual reason, like feels
mortifying.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what Dale Jr. I can't even imagine.
And Ronnie posted Len Bias, Drazen Petrovic, Reggie Lewis, all gone too soon.
Yeah. Yeah, Lembias, yep. Yep. Drazen's a good one, yep. I remember that.
All right, so now let's move on to the Justice League Snyder Cut, and we're going to go with...